Hey folks, it's Andrew. Welcome back. So now that you know the basics, mover, joiner, leaver, RBAC, ABAC, all the different various things that bring up or is about identity management, how do we show that experience? Especially if you're somebody new. And it's hard. I totally understand that. And it really sucks. You have job requirements out there that said, I need 3 to 5 years of experience of Okta, SailPoint, Azure, GCP, AWS. And you're like, oh my God, where do I start? And it sucks because you kind of know where to go. And to me, that's a little bit of a big gap that I'm hoping to fill with this video. I want to give you some projects that you can do. And these projects will help you, the candidate, show hiring managers that, look, I understand I might not have 3 to 5 years experience, but I can do almost anything that you're asking me to do. And let me show you some of the projects that I've done in the past. And you can go and explain what you did using the IAM basics. And my hope is with these projects, you can show your experience that way, and hopefully hiring managers will give you a shot, because I know people who are watching my videos, you guys are ballers, you're hustlers, you're there to work, you want a job, you know you would do a great job in identity access management. And we need people like yourself who, knowing you're come in, this is a job that you want to do and you want to work hard at it. Give me a shot. And these projects are here to help you. My name is Andrew, and if you're new to my channel, I talk about everything identity access management. I sprinkle in a couple times some job interviews, job requirements, any ways to you to get a job. But in this video, I'm gonna focus on projects. And the big project right now that we're gonna talk about is how do I show an automated joiner process? And sometimes it can be tough to show that joiner process, but I have some cool, inexpensive method for you to kind of show this work. And it's not gonna cost you too much money. Honestly, almost less than $20 a month. And that's cool. So what we're gonna do in this project is we're gonna talk about using a automated form or form using Microsoft Forms, automate that with Power Automate, and a very simple Power Automate, which I'll go over in depth. And then you're gonna use Azure AD and PIM or their PIM module to put that user, automate it, and put them into a group. And the whole point of that is to show a hiring manager, hey, I can show you how to do it from a form perspective, which is sometimes you work for a startup. It happens from time to time. They can't afford, they choose not to afford one of the bigger ones like a Workday or a Ultimate Pro. Any of these other HR systems, they may not be able to afford it, or they're just not there yet. And so it's a legitimate use case. You have an automation, and then you have an IGA or a backend part, which is Azure, which is part of Entra, which is Microsoft's umbrella of identity access management tools. So sit back, relax, and I'm gonna walk you through step by step how to create the form, how to do the Power Automate, and then of course how to do Azure. And I'll talk again about the pricing model about that from there. So let's get started. Let's go. So the first thing I want to talk about for this project is we're gonna learn a little bit of Azure. Full disclosure, I am not an Azure expert. I'm actually learning this myself. It's just an interesting, fun world, because during my career, I've been doing IAM mostly from a workforce perspective. So, but it's so cool to have an opportunity to show projects that you can put on your resume. And that's what this is to start. And we're gonna learn about onboarding and a simple joiner process that you can make up, again, for minimum amount of money that costs you, not too much. And again, I stress so much, I try my best to give you some projects that aren't gonna cost you a lot of money, because that's not what I want you to do. I want you to be able to show your experience, show your value that won't kill your bank account. So let's get started. So here on the screen here is a couple of things on Azure. What I wanna really show you first is this awesome webpage that gives you a holistic view of all the different things that a Microsoft 365 license will give you. And I want to just give a big shout out to Justin Foro for this little link. Thank you so much for this, man. I really appreciate this help. And really what this is, just to show you guys, is this is a basic account, and this is all you really need, is a Microsoft basic account that will give you access to everything that we're gonna do in this project. And what this basic account will give you is it's only $6 a month per user, which is not bad. Again, it's really cool. And it gives you access to a lot of things. So you'll get Microsoft Forms access, which is work we're gonna be using in this project. You're gonna get a couple things like Planner, things that you can do in the future, and then AD free, which is nice. There's another license that you're gonna get that I'll talk to in a couple seconds that you're gonna need for this whole process to work too. It's just very simple, $6 per user, Can't really kill your bank account, and it's a good start. And the nice part is going back to this link here, and I'll link everything below for you to access everything and to buy if you want to. You get access to create your own account and your own business account, which is nice too, because for some applications like Okta, for example, where you can get a free trial, which is nice with a business email, this helps you right there from there. So now here's the basics. Let's talk about pricing or what we can do here. So the second subscription you're gonna need is you're gonna need an Azure P2 license, and this is for privileged access management. And this is the part that you're gonna need to. Again, not too expensive, $9 per month per user with an annual commitment. So not too expensive, but they do offer trials, which is nice. So if you wanna do a quick trial of this and then take it off, you can too. And not too bad. What, less than $20 a month? If you want to think about it, even with the trial, it's very nice too. So now that you have the licenses and the costs out of the way, let's talk about what we're going to do. So this is what we're going to do for the project. It's really cool. Very basic, and I am, again, not an Azure expert. So if I have friends who watch this who are Azure experts, please let me know if there's a better way. But this is what me learning, and I thought, ooh, cool. There's something that might work for us. What we're going to do is this, right? We're going to create a form. And what we're going to do with this Microsoft form is, on this onboarding form that I create here, we're gonna make it very simple. First name, last name, start date, email, your department, and a laptop. And I just did this one just to be more realistic. And what I realized is I actually wanna make this required because for our project, this is the actual attribute we're gonna be using to put somebody into a group. So what I can do here is you click on this, and what you can do is make this required, which is nice. And you click out of it. And the cool thing about Microsoft Forms is this is so nice. If you want to use something that gives you good intake of forms or something that is very simple, this is so easy to use. You don't have to use like a SurveyMonkey. You don't have to. It's not that expensive. It works out. And the nice part about this is anybody can really learn how to use. Not that difficult. So when we do the collect responses, that means we're done. But this is just the beginning part. We're not really getting started. We want to just create the baseline. And in real life examples, you're probably going to have a automated form or an automated system that will do a lot of this work. But since the fact that you can't get a workday, you have to work for a big company for that, or an accountant that just wants to pay, it's hard to simulate that. So I thought, hey, what's a simple way for us to simulate this? Because the best part of all this is we're going to talk about it. So the Microsoft form is a way, and I have done this in the past where I worked for companies who they didn't want to buy a HR system at the moment, or they want to start up really quickly and they didn't have the time to invest. So they're like, hey, how can I onboard new people really quickly using something very simple that can be shared across the board? So Microsoft Forms is an option, and that's why we're choosing this, is for that reason. But again, you need to be able to just talk about it when you talk to hiring managers about how this will work, like in a real world example, because you can break down the different attributes you can use to create an account. So this is a simple way to do it. There are maybe some companies that can do it this way, but majority of the companies that you'll probably end up working for already has an established HR system. UltiPro, Workday, any of these SAP products that already has today, these are the applications that you use that will really try to have the HR users to create accounts for people, or at least house the employees. So just to let you guys know more about that. So we create the form, and now what we're gonna do is actually this. We're gonna go to Azure itself. So I already have my own Azure account. You can see here my own All Things Identity account here. And what you wanna do is you wanna go to this Manage Azure Active Directory. Again, I have told everybody that you don't need to be technical to be a IAM person, and that's true. But for this specific reason, and to show you know your stuff, you need at least know how to navigate around Azure. And not technical, it's just more understanding. And if you want to really learn more about Azure, I really suggest you look at John Savile's, and I'll link his below too. He has some amazing videos that talk about Azure, and he is an expert. He goes in depth, and it's great, and it gives you a good fundamental. There's a masterclass that you should watch. It's pretty long, but he goes in depth of everything Azure. And if you're somebody who wants to be more of a cloud IAM person versus a workforce IAM person, that's the way to go. And then maybe you go for a certification like your Azure AZ 900, which is not that difficult to go. And then you progress on to maybe an SC 300, which is the IAM administrator certification, which is nice. But back to this. So we're in Azure now. We're in the system here. What I want you to do is you're going to go now to this identity governance right here. And this is where the P2 license kicks in. If you do not have this license, Microsoft is going to prompt you saying, hey, hold on, dude. You want to rework on this, you're going to need to upgrade your license. If you go to the basic and do nothing else, you're going to have minimum things that you need to do. So what you need to do is take that trial. And again, I've already done this trial, or I have it already. So that's why you don't see it. But this is where you're going to have to go in and really start that trial. So you'll notice here that this identity governance is the start. And what you want to do is you want to create a group. And you want to create groups that have dynamic in there. So we have the different Azure roles. We got from governance here. What I actually really want you to do is actually go to up here and type in PIM. And this is where you get the Azure Privileged Access Management from here. So when you come to this page now, you'll see all the different roles, the groups, all that good stuff. So you go to the group preview here, you're gonna see that I have no groups at all and no roles, and quick start from there. So here's where we're gonna go and start to create groups ourselves. So going back to home, we'll go back to Azure Active Directory, and there's easy ways to get through this, okay? I'm just making it very simple. You go to groups here, you'll notice I only have one group, all company. We're gonna create a new group, and in this new group, we're gonna do a security or a 365 group. So in our example, we're gonna create a group for help desk people. And help desk people, most likely they have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. We're gonna create a very simple one. And let's say we're gonna give them access to reset passwords. Microsoft security groups, that's the group you wanna pick. Microsoft 365 groups are more when you want to give access to certain Office 365 applications, SharePoint, Teams, all the different applications that they have there. That's kind of the group you want to go to. But from a security perspective, you want to pick a security group. And again, not an Azure expert. If anybody at Azure knows more, please chime in below. That's all good. Again, I've been taking 2-3 weeks to kind of learn all this on my side because this is kind of cool and fascinating for me. So please don't hurt me. Anyway, so let's talk about groups. So we have the security group, the group name. We'll call it help desk. And then the description, whatever you want to do. We'll just say help desk. Help desk. Okay. Now here's the interesting part. If you want to already assign a role to this, so you come here, you want to assign a role, you can do that, okay? The problem is that you really can't like automatically add somebody, and you want to kind of show some automation. Because in Joiner, the most part of automation is you want to be able to take something and automate the workflow. And that's the whole point of Joiner, right? Is to create a new user. And based on attributes, are we using rollback, role-based access control? Are we using ABAC, attribute access control? Can we really add people based on a certain criteria? And that's why we don't want to add groups itself or the roles. So we want to X out of this, and we want to put no. And now the membership type, here's where you want to use this. You want to do a dynamic user. And what does this do? You'll notice how we have one admin, or that's me, okay? And then you want to do a query. And the query is, what's the criteria? What's the rules that I want to use to set this person? And if you look at it, when I finish creating this, it's a little bit of a payback because I'm using an attribute to do this. And now you can argue a little bit of a RBAC or rollback, but you're not using roles, right? You're not saying, oh, this person's a help desk person, some definition there, and then I'm assign that role. No, this is more ABAC because you're using an attribute to define the person and put them in a certain group itself. So what we want to do here is you want to go choose property, and we're going to use department, and I'll explain everything going from there. But this is the step you want to go. So department, you want to choose equals, and we're going to do help desk. And I'll show you why shortly. So we're done. Look at the query. Okay, so user.department equals help desk. And for those a little bit savvy on coding, you'll know what this means. And we're done. Let's save. So now when we have the query created, we're going to create the group now. So give it a second or two. We're going to refresh this even more. It's going to come, promise. There it is. Now here's our help desk. And now you'll notice it's dynamic and nobody's assigned. No users at all. So now we have that set up. We have it all done from a setup perspective. Now let's go back to the form. And then I'm going to use another part of the Microsoft world, which is Power Automate to do this. So in the form, you remember that I created all these different attributes or so I'm going to create this. I'm going to open our browser real quick, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the form. You're going to see the form itself. So here's a form. So first name, last name, start date, email address, what's your department, and do you need a laptop? Very simple, very generic. This is our entry point. So when we go to a resume, you talk about this. This is when you explain to hiring managers, hey, we have a starting point. And for some people, it could be actually, asset management could be your starting point because when I go and create a user, is there an asset? And when we look at assets, is it like a laptop, okay? Or do I get a phone or do I get anything else that's assigned to me? That could be an asset. And that can be tied a lot of times to user accounts there. And again, Marcus Wells, my friend, thanks so much for reminding me about that. So I want to make sure I put that in there. From the form itself, you have here first name, last name, all those being created. But we want to automate this, right? Because we want to make it easy on everybody. So now we're going to Microsoft Power Automate. And with your basic account, you get this, which is nice. Now, there is a la carte, which Microsoft does do, you can pay there, but why would you want to do that? Where you pay $6 a month and you get access. Going back all the way back to here, you'll notice here that Power Automate is included in this, which is sweet. So Power Automate, go to My Flows, and I have actually already created an onboarding here for you. And as you see, I've done a lot of testing, but let me just break it down for you and walk you through this. And I will share links below on some of the various different YouTube links that I went to kind of learn Power Automate myself. And that's somewhere you can get started, because I want to thank all those people, and I'll link them below of the actual legitimate YouTubers I watch to really learn Power Automate better, because I want to make sure I give them the credit. On this Power Automate here, what it is I'm saying that when a new form gets submitted, so the form that we just created, once I submit that, I want to get a response. So give me the details of that form. What does that mean? So when I submit this form, I'm telling Power Automate saying, hey, give me the response, and then I want you to go and create a user. I don't want the account to be enabled automatically. Why is that? Let's talk about that. There are mostly times where when you get new hires, they don't already start off the bat. Most people, they usually have to get their 2 weeks notice, 3 weeks notice, whatever. But I want to create their accounts ahead of time. I want them day one, that when they're ready to go, their day one, their account is flipped over, activated. They can go in, they can do their work. There are use cases where you might have them access it early so they can do their HR forms, and I understand that. And that's a separate use case, but that does happen often. But for our purpose and examples, we want to say, no, I do not want this person starting early. I want their access to be clicked off the day they start, because that's when they're on payroll and they want to get started right there. And that's why we said no. And the basics, my first name, last name, my display name, first name, password. The user will change this password when they log in the first time, but you want to get them started. And there are always big use cases. And I've seen often time is, how do I handle passwords when I get new users? And if you go back to, I did a LinkedIn post about this where a company that got hacked, their breach got started because the malicious actor or the hacker actually logged into that personal account, saw the email with the password, and got access that way. And then they had their own least privileges rules right there to kind of stop everything going on. So they only got access to the minimum things. That's his first separate case and separate conversation, but there are different ways you can do. You can encrypt the email itself. You can have a certain ways to kind of give that information to you. But from commonly time to time, and this is a often IAM issue, is how do I give that password the first time? And a lot of times it's very simple like this, which is true and it sucks, because you don't want anybody to come log in and put like 18,000 characters and be like, damn dude, this sucks. And I understand that, right? It's a give or take. And in an identity, as practitioners, that's something that we need to do, right? Is we need to have a give and take approach. We need to really understand from there. So first name, last name, email, give name, surname, all that is there too. And also from here is you'll see one item, department, because that's what we want to know is what is our department. We want to really be very simple on that one. So this is the setup. This is the workflow that we're going to create in Power Automate that says, hey, when I create a new user, I want you to, number one, create them in Azure AD. Number two, based on that group dynamic, you're going to put them in that group itself. So let's test this out. Fingers crossed. Hope I know what I'm doing. So now we have those all done. Everything's good to go here. Let's go ahead and run this bad boy. So we'll go here. Let's test out. So let's just say John Chan. Let's say his start date is the 22nd. Email, so john.chan@allthingsidentity.com. Again, just to be very clear, most organizations, when you come start in, they might have an established IGA or Identity Governance Administration. A lot of times those platforms will automatically create the emails itself. They'll have like a workflow to create it, some code. For example, SailPoint, you can make workflows to kind of create that automatically. But from what we're doing in this project, we're going to have to create that ourselves. A big tip for your IAM people is, you might get this question is, oh, well, what do you do if we get a duplicate? That's true. And for our test purposes here, we don't have that knowledge, and it's a startup. As you grow and mature in your company, you will have different checks and balances that will help you kind of validate or check, hey, has this been used? And then you might have a rule that says, oh, add a 1 or start chopping off names at the end of it. That does happen. And that's another identity problem or use case that we're going to be solving. But for this test purposes, again, for our project, we're going to show automation. And my kids are having a good time right now, as you can tell here in the background. Department, here's the trigger. You remember, back to our groups. So in our groups itself, we wrote a dynamic rule that says, hey, in this group right here, this help desk group, that the department must equal help desk. So if I come here and I say help desk, this is the trigger. And this backwards is just fluff. I don't really care about this. So I hit submit. And now we're done. What Power Automate is going to do now is going to take that response, it's going to go and generate everything and create a user. So let's give it about like 5 seconds and let's go back to our help desk here and let's see, number 1, 2 things we're checking. 1, has user been created? 2, are they in this group? Let's find out. So back to this help desk here. So we're going back to the group. Let's go to members and we'll see here nobody's added at the moment and we're still refreshing because the account's probably still being created. Let's go all the way back to our home and let's go back to view. And I know we can go to favorites here too and go to resources and add that easier that way. But we're gonna go to view account, we're gonna go to users. Up, there's our person, John Chan, added, sweet. That works. So second thing now is we'll say, hey, is John in a group? So back under all things identity groups, users here, we go to groups, nothing yet, and we need to wait. And that's what happened is the trigger itself, the dynamic is gonna have him kick in saying, hey, what's John's department? And to validate that it came through, we'll go back to John here, we'll go to edit properties, or actually go properties here, and we'll see, hey, what's all this information here? And down here, department help desk right here. So now John should be part of the group, and there you go. It took some time for Microsoft to catch up on the cloud, but now John's in the group. So you now know that that's worked. So let's summarize real quick where we're at. Number 1, what are we doing? Our project is we were able to go into Microsoft Azure. We were going to create a group. We create a dynamic filter or a query that says, hey, if this attribute equals this or help desk, put them in this group, which is our help desk. And now what we've done is we've used PAM, privilege access management, privilege identity management, that Microsoft calls it. And we did a workflow that says, hey, if this user is equal to this, their attribute, which is department, is help desk, put them in this group. Done. We create an automated joiner process from a Microsoft form right here that lets us to say, hey, if an HR person or anybody else goes and submits this, I'm going to use Power Automate, for example, to create that. And you can talk about that. So all we did now was we use an authoritative source, Microsoft Forms. We submitted a new request. We used Power Automate to do the workflow itself. That Power Automate went in and created a user in Azure AD here for us, which is awesome. And once that user's been done, we create a group using dynamic filters or ABAC to go and create that and put this John Chan here in that group. Sweet, right? And that's a whole workflow right there. And then the last part you want to do is if you want, you can assign a role to it. Because at the end of the day, we want the users to be assigned a role that they can do. And our overall role is to do help desk. Man, that was a journey. And I really hope you enjoyed that whole walkthrough of Microsoft Forms, Power Automate, and then at the end, Azure, and using PIM to automate that. We didn't put any roles in there, which is, we will get to that point, but I wanted to show that automation from there. So I really hoped you understood the step-by-step guide from an Azure perspective. This is IAM for the most part, but there is some cloud in there. So if you're somebody who wants to be more of an identity or IAM cloud engineer, that's good too. And these projects, we'll talk more about Azure. We're gonna actually do some Okta in the future. Other projects in the pipeline that you can follow step by step with my videos, and you can talk about it and put that on your resume. If you actually like some of the Azure stuff that's going on, I know some great people that I've actually watched videos for. John Salvo, he has an amazing YouTube channel that talks all about Azure, and I will link that below in the description. You can go to his stuff. He has hours and hours of videos, and it is actually what I use to learn Azure myself. And I'm actually excited to learn more about Azure, especially in the identity space. More projects to come. I really hope you had a good time understanding what's going on and then how you can apply that. Next video, I'm actually going to take that actual Azure setup that we did, and we're going to actually bring Okta to the mix. And we're going to talk about having a connection where you have external identities logging in to your Azure or vice versa. What you can also have is Okta be your primary identity provider. You could authenticate users to Azure, validate them, and we'll talk more about that common use case. That's all for now. Long video, but I hope you got some good content in there. And I'm excited for more videos to show everybody. Also, if you're watching this, I'm actually going to be speaking at a conference, Cyber Jiu-Jitsu, later on in June. If you're going to be in person or virtual, I would happy to attend. I'm going to give you, the attendees, a little good breakdown of identity. The goal is to get them understanding what IAM is, some of the different facets of IAM, with the hope that we get some great people that join. Thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate your support. And as always, stay curious because you never know. I'll see you soon.